So, coaches, it's a beautiful day to talk about some Zoom actions. And whether it's a college or a high school program that I get the chance to work with, many of them are running Zoom action. And in this video, we're going to get into some different Zoom actions, not necessarily what I would call better, but different ways to set it up, different locations, some different things to think about as you get into Zoom. Obviously, Zoom is becoming more and more popular. So with that, teams are a little more used to defending it. So the basics of a Zoom, if you're brand new, is a down screen. If five has the basketball here, four is coming to set a down screen for one. Four is going down to set a down screen for one, and you have five with the basketball, and they are going to get into a dribble handoff for the one, right? So the one's coming off, setting their defender up. They come off this screen, they get the handoff from the five, right? And then they're able to turn the corner and whether it's pull it, whether it's drive it, whether it's getting to mid range, read some of the options on the weak side or play off of the initial zoom. It's a three-player action. All right. And I love three-player actions because, similar to a two-player action. Like if you're running 2-on-2, you can run a ball screen, you can run a dribble handoff, you could run a give and go. It takes three players to run a zoom. Three players, a little more complex, and there's more options because of that. Takes players with a high IQ, right? You got to rep it. You got to look through the options. And so I hope that you'll like some of the options that I show you when it comes to what we're going through today. So my first one that I want to show you is a blob zoom. I really like these out of bounds ever since I saw Purdue a couple years ago beat Michigan State running this. So let's say we have one throwing the basketball as an inbounder. The most basic way that you could set this up would be to have, let's say, a big right here, and you just throw it into them. I like a little different variation. So let's put the five over here. I'm going to put the one in. Obviously, these positions can be whatever you like. Let's give the three the ball. I'm going to have the three throw the basketball in. And so we're running four flat, right? Okay. So as we get into this, we want to get the basketball in. We're going to set this screen for the five. Five's not going to come across here. Just going to give them a little rub. Maybe it's an early switch, and the five is then going to cut up and get the pass from out of bounds. All right. So three throws the basketball in right here. One has now set that screen. They're over at the block. And here's how we're looking right now. Now, this is a different angle with our zoom. Again, we got shooter spotted up in each corner. Five now has the basketball. Three is going to run off. This is more of a stationary screen. If one moved a little bit, I guess that's fine, but I like the angle that this creates. If three is able to come off of the screen from the one. All right. So if you're with me here, one is setting the screen for the three throwing the basketball in. All right. So there's just a little screen action going on right here. Right. Three's coming off of into our dribble handoff. One of the reasons I like this is because it's super tight. Right. So three's coming off and they're getting the basketball here. They're able to possibly turn the corner and get into a drive. If you have a big that can shoot it, good spot to put him here. If you think you might get some extra weak side help, you can put the big there, right? If this is a shooter here, you want to keep more space on that side, put the two there. So that's a good option as well. After one sets that screen, I'd like him to space or probably lift the two and push the one back. You could even do a pin in screen for the two. And a lot of this is just to keep the defense honest more than anything else, right? We can set a little pin in screen. Two comes back out here, or the one comes back out there. After the two sets that screen, they might even just pop back, right? But using a blob to run a zoom is a great option. It's one of my favorites, and just because it's a zoom is an aggressive action, and I like being aggressive. And so, if we can figure out how we can tweak that, that's a good way for us to run a zoom. Next one is a boomerang or a screen to screener action. All right. So, number one on this little video here is talking about how we can use a blob out of bounds for this. Next one's a boomerang. Let's say we have our two over here and they're coming down to set a screen for the one, right? So if you're looking at this setup, pretty traditional, right? As far as, we have basketball up top, we have our screener who's working to cut in, and you see Steph Curry as the two a lot in these situations where the one comes off and then they turn and now they become the screener for the two. Again, screen and the screener or boomerang. Now the two who just set the screen, they're the one that's coming up. You have the five up here. The five is then getting into their dribble handoff. All right, the five is now down here. Get this out of the way for you. All right. The two now has the basketball and they're able to get that handoff and they're able to turn the corner and then we play out of it. Right. And so again, it's just a screen to screener action. That's all it is. Right. You have a player coming down. Let's say it's the two. Player one comes down, sets a screen for the two. Two fakes this cut. Boom, they turn, they pin in. And then the one comes off, the dribble handoff. Probably wouldn't do it 1 and 2 just because it's so switchable anyway. But maybe it's a 2 and a 4, right? A 1 and a 3. Maybe you have a different player up top that's handing the basketball off, and you're incorporating your 5 into that down screen or coming off of it. See if you can get a weak switch right on a defensive player. So that's the second one that I really like is the boomerang or the screen to screener action, where you're working on setting the screen, the cutter coming off the first screen, they're the one that's actually setting it for the screener, and then they come off and run that. Double zoom is another one that I like. Let me respace a few players over here. And all I mean by a double zoom, like let's say traditional offense, one brings the basketball down, right? One brings the basketball down. They then pass across to the 5. One passes across to the 5. And that kind of initiates the offense with where we're at, right? And then from there, we're running a double zoom, meaning we're running a zoom action on both sides of the court, right? 2 goes for 4. 1 goes for 3. All right, setting those down screens. Boom, 1's coming down. 2's coming down. And then 5 has some options. You got your first option. Okay, who's the player we really want to get the basketball to? Obviously, coming off of this zoom, we have a rejection. We have a hard curl. We have a boomerang, right? And if any of these lead our initial cutter to go inside, that just cues the additional player to go to the outside. It's simple right there. Same thing if the 2 is coming down to set a screen and they read a jump, right? A hard show or hedge. If they go in, that means the other person comes out. Very easy to play off of, especially when we give ourselves a side and space. But being able to run that off of both sides, really all 5 defenders, when you're running a double zoom, have to be paying attention. They have to be communicating, right? Even if it's a simple switch with a like switch, they still have to be communicating. They still have to be paying attention. And one mistake out of one player, right? Because there's a multiplayer action, 3-player action, bad things can happen. So we're forcing the communication with a double zoom. Let's say the 1 comes down, they set a screen, 3's lifting off, and 5 gets into their dribble handoff, right? So now 3 has the basketball. 3's coming off. What do we just run on the other side? We already ran this pin down. So 4 in this situation is coming off here. And if 3 doesn't like what they have on their side, they can just get into another handoff. Timing of this gets important, right? And it may not be bang, bang, right? Which I think is actually a good thing. 3 can just dribble on over here, and you run another dribble handoff for the 4. So you ran a zoom into another zoom, and then you can play out of it. So that's number 3, double zoom. Talked about some of the main aspects of why I like the double zoom, combined with the fact that you can literally run a zoom action on one side of the court into a zoom action on the other side of the court. Zoom, zoom. That's pretty tough to guard. So zoom in this case really has 2 meanings. It's a double zoom because you're running one on each side at the same time. And then after the big picks a spot, right or left, they're coming into the zoom that took place, right? That down screen that took place on the other side. So double zoom, that's one that I really like. Let's look at a horns option, right? So everybody knows some basic horns offense. And sorry, this is there we go a little bit. So let's say the 1 has the basketball and they want to throw the basketball to, the 5. We got some spacing, fix the court here. Sorry about that. We're here. 1 throws the basketball to the 5. All right, right here. Oh, what's this guy doing over here? Apologies. My bad. So 5 has the basketball, and like we're running a get. Think about running a get. So throw and then go, right? So 1's coming off. What we're trying to set up is the zoom action happening on this side. So we threw the basketball in, we cut through, we can run a zoom right here, but what we're really trying to get to is this down screen here into the zoom that's happening as we dribble across and we get our hand off for the 2's coming around. They have the basketball, boom, and then they're turning the corner, right? So as you think about that, we started out in a horn setup. Anytime you're running a horn setup, you can make one little tweak or the other, and that changes the locations of where your zoom is being set, which is why I really like running out of a horns option. And a lot of times you want your big to have the basketball anyway. So a little less predictable because you could run this if you have the 1 up top, they can pass it to the 4, they can pass it to the 5, right? You have both options available when they're both up high. And again, you can put any player there as well. Okay, so when you're running an action off of the zoom horns, I like the little throw and go or that get action to start. I like it more so than, let's say 1 brought the basketball up, they passed to the 5, and then now we run our zoom. Just personal preference for me. I feel like there's more that can be done when it's out of this setup to start. We throw it in. And when I'm saying this, I'm talking more about like half court offense, right? If it's transition offense and you have a primary ball handler bringing the basketball down, it makes sense to kind of bring it down, throw it across, and then you get into some of your zoom. When you're in a little more of a half court offense, I really like running horns with a zoom. So that's also something to think about as far as if you run a lot of zooms, does your transition need to look exactly like some of your half court stuff? Or do you want to have some variability? A couple more options there as well. That's something to think about. But when it comes to these, we have to go back to understanding if we have a good zoom action, right? Between one side, 5 has the basketball. They're here. We've set this screen. 2's coming off. We have our dribble handoff. 2 now has the basketball. And this is traditional. 5 had the ball. Boom. They're rolling down to the post. 1 set the screen. They're spacing out. Move this guy over here. If 2 gets that handoff, they don't have a crack. They can't lift up and light it. Right? Not there. If we the zoom is aggressive, man. It's aggressive. So like my biggest pet peeve watching teams run zoom is when they get casual with it and they just become very, east-west players and just kind of come back here. So just because you don't have the chance to score doesn't mean you shouldn't hunt the paint. That's going to do great things if you can get a foot in, even though it's just a foot in the paint. So if we can say, hey, you know what? Drive off the zoom, even if you don't think anything's there, see if you can get a foot in the paint, right? What's this going to cause this defender to do a lot of times? Usually they bump in a little bit. That's where you got your rise action, right? Boom. We rise up out of here, and then we can get the basketball and kick it out of that rise. And you see this all the time because players are taught not to help on a same side drive, right? But now that this basketball is going to the right and X1 is guarding somebody on the left, right? They're thinking, what are they thinking? I'm now the help side defender. I'm now the back line of defense in rotation. So they're going to start gradually coming down. You got a shooter setting that screen. They lift out of the corner. Money in the bank, right? Now, if that's not there, what do we set up? Maybe we got a switch on this. We got a good post up right there. And now we can go to work in the post, right? Maybe they had a switch off of this. I mean, maybe the 1 is guarding in here. We can throw the basketball in there, pound him. You got him, right? Introduce him to Mr. or Mrs. Shoulder, right? It's time to eat. Okay. So that's one thing that I think I wish we saw a little bit more. When you watch Purdue play with Zach Edey, they did a great job of running zooms, and they would mix different things. You run the zoom, and you get a Lawyer coming off into an action. You get Edey in the post. A lot of different things, and I think like a lot of offense in today's game is very much guard oriented. But boy, if we can get a mismatch in the post and still teach a post move 1 or 2, that's hard to guard. People aren't used to guarding the post. So that's not even like one of the 5 that I wanted to show you, but basic zoom action, rise, look for that kick across to the wing, and then we got a shot or we got a post entry. The last one that I want to run through today is a high post zoom. And so let me set this up for you. When you see a lot of zoom actions, a lot of them are pretty traditional corner, wing going into a down screen, basketball up top, right? That gives us probably the most spacing, which is why we see that as the most common. But what I really like are some of these opportunities where we can use it in a little tighter fashion. Okay. So let's look at this option. See if you guys like this. Let's say the 1 is bringing the basketball up. Let's say we want to get the 2 going downhill attacking. Pretty simple right here. 1 has the basketball. They pass to your 5. And then they screen for your 2. Again, these could be any positions, right? You guys know that. So, sorry, 5 has the basketball. 1's coming down, setting that screen. 2's coming off. And look where we're at. Like if there's one mistake here, 5 can keep it and go score. Getting the handoff here, easily 1 dribble if there's a mistake. 2 can get to the rack. X3 is helping, and I see it quickly off the handoff. 5 or 2, boom. Hit the corner for a 3, right? You look at your slip options, and the passing reads are very simple because the closer we get to the basket, the more concerned the defense has to be with you being an option to score. So when I'm setting this screen here, slip, right? Defense is paying attention to me. If X1 is here, say they didn't switch it, they're worried about this zoom, I can come down and I can set a screen for the 4, right? Using some tighter zooms can be super effective when you have a player who may not, for anybody, but let's say you're 5, you want to run some zooms, you have some players on your team, you don't want them necessarily having the ball out on the perimeter. Maybe they're not as comfortable out there. Ball handling ability is not there, but you know what? Like they can take 1 or 2 hard dribbles, get to the rack and finish. They play strong, right? Maybe your offense isn't built around shooting as many threes anyway. So the fact that you're running your zooms tighter and closer to the basket, not as big of a deal. I personally like thinking about this different variation of running zooms out of the high post because truly in one dribble, you can just get a layup. Like you can do a move with one dribble and still get a layup compared to that extra few feet getting out to the 3-point line. That spacing changes, right? So let's walk through this little series one more time. Again, you got whatever you like, spacing wise, positions. One has the basketball, they're throwing to the 5, and then they're getting into their screen for the 2. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. 4 is the one we need to get the basketball. Look at that. So what do? Give them a double. So we go boom here. 2's coming down to set that screen. It's a double stagger into a zoom, baby. Here we go. 1's coming down to set that screen. Is a thing of beauty, right? 5's starting to get a little cross in the dribble, right? We're getting ready to set this here. Maybe they're even bumping their defender back a little bit because we want to get tight. This is a aggressive driver getting this handoff. We still want to run some tighter zooms. 4 gets that handoff. Boom. Now look at what we got. Beautiful option, right? So if you think about how you can run some of your zooms, I really like out of the ones that I've shown you, I like the blob zoom. And I really like the high post zoom. Probably the horn zoom would be one of my next favorites, right? But they're all great. And as your players' IQ, team's IQ continues to grow, you're gonna get into more of the options that we haven't touched on at all in this video, which is like slipping, popping, like we talked about with the boomerang. Like the boomerang might not even be a call to screen the screener. It might just be something that players are reading and then doing. The person who has the basketball doing the DHO, them making good reads and sometimes deciding, hey, I'm going to keep this thing and turn the corner and get to the rack. Man, that's fun stuff. So I hope that you found this beneficial. If it did, we have a small-sided game series of Zoom actions in our Coach's Edge Coach membership. That's a good one to check out. If this seemed a little more advanced, check out our other YouTube video, which was more basic Zoom, just like teaching basic Zoom breakdown, what I would think are some more simple variations of running Zoom actions. I'll make sure I put that link somewhere. But this is all part of like Coach's Edge Coach. And I love the fact that I get the chance to consult with college and high school programs around the United States. And a lot of them are running Zooms. And this is a common thing that we get the chance to chat about throughout the course of the year. So I just wanted to share some of those with you. So I hope you found it beneficial. If you did, like or comment or let me know what more you'd like to see. As this is the time of year where we really start serving coaches more and more through our Coach's Edge membership and just through our basic Coach's Edge podcast and our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching and get after it today.